RouteLens is a tool to help users select the best route for their common trips based on their personal driving history. Let me just briefly explain the terminology we use to describe the data. We use the word route to mean a particular path or set of roads from one location to another. Each time you drive along a route, we call that a trip. And you can think of all the different ways to get from one location to another as a collection of routes. Finally, locations are just the named endpoints of routes. The application consists of two components. The mobile interface is a simple program used to record the history of a trip. It runs on a PDA or cell phone with a GPS receiver. A driver simply presses start recording at the beginning of a trip and stop recording at the end, and the GPS data, including position, time, and speed information, is recorded in a trip file. Once users have driven a sufficient number of trips, they can use the desktop interface to see trends in travel time, speed, and other recorded statistics in order to compare alternative routes. The first step is to import trip files recorded on the mobile device. If I select Import Trips from the File menu, a dialog box appears. I can then click on a folder where I know I have some trip files and click Preview to view the data. The current trip is shown on the map with hollow rings and an orange dotted line to make it easier to see the routes underneath. I can use this checkbox to hide or show the trip. I can also use this slider to include all locations and routes, or just the ones that are near the current trip. Now I have to decide whether to add this trip to an existing route or create a new route. But the system has already made a guess for me. It selected 193 to the coffee shop. That route is also selected in the map view. It looks like a pretty close match, so I'll go ahead and add the trip to the selected route. When I do that, the next trip is selected. This time, there are no good route candidates, so I'll have to create a new route. To do that, I need to select the start and end points. RouteLens has already selected a start point for me, my home. That looks right, but there are no locations near the end of the trip, so I'll need to create a new location. When I click here to add a new location, RouteLens will suggest a name for me based on the geocoded latitude and longitude coordinates of the point. Ah, that's right, Valley Drive. That's my friend Bongshin's house. I'll create the route and add the trip. For the last trip, there are still no nearby routes, but there are locations near the endpoints of the trip. This looks like a new route from my parents' house to my home. Let me create that route and add the trip. Once I've imported some trips, I can see an overview of everywhere I've gone in the map view. I can zoom out to get a broader view, and the details of the map change, but the routes remain visible. Or I can zoom back in to focus on a particular set of routes. The Route Details pane shows detailed statistics for each route, including the number of trips traveled, distance, travel time, number of stops, total stop time, and speed. When I mouse over a route in the map view, the route is highlighted in both the map view and the details view. The start point is highlighted in green, the end point is highlighted in red, and labels tell me which route this is. I can see that this is a route from my parents' house to my home. Highlighting a location will fade out the routes and show me an overview of all the other locations I've traveled to from here. I can see I've traveled several places from my home, including here, the University of Maryland, where I work. Now let's suppose I want to know the best way to get to the coffee shop. First, I'll zoom in on the actual data that I care about. When I click on Home, that location is selected as the start point, and all the routes that do not start from my home are faded out. I could click on another location to select the endpoint, or I can use the drop-down menu. I'll choose Coffee Shop. Now only the routes that go from my home to the coffee shop are active. But I can see that there is this other route that goes pretty close by. It might be useful to look at that route as well. I can use this slider to include routes that fall within a certain range of the endpoints. But how do I know which route is best? Well, I can click on an attribute in the Route Attributes pane that I care about. I'll select time. When I do that, the Details pane is sorted by time, and the routes in the map view are drawn differently. The better a route is for the selected attribute, the thicker and darker it will appear. Clearly, the route that takes 193 is the best route. It only takes just over 7 minutes. But if I look at the maximum time, I can see that that route can take over 8 minutes. So I might want to sort by the variance in time to see how much the individual trips vary. When I do that, I can see that even though the route that takes Paint Branch has a longer average travel time, it actually has the least variance. But there is another attribute that's very important to me. When I'm driving, I hate to stop. If I click Stops, things look different. Now, the Beltway is the best route. It only has about 3 stops on average. On the other hand, if I take Paint Branch, I can expect to stop about 6 times on average. But how much time am I actually spending while stopped? If I click Stop Time, I can see that the Beltway is still the best route, with less than a minute of stop time. On the other hand, 193 has nearly 2 minutes of stop time. It's clear to see how understanding your personal driving history can help you make better route choices in the future.